do have a very pluralist kind of media now, where there may still be these sort of holiday shows that they had on in the Soviet period, but now there's 6 different versions, and you can change channels and watch, or you can watch none of them, or something entirely different. And this, I mean, the internationalization, it's like the ability to travel abroad, right? They have total access and unlimited access to world culture now in a way that, was not the case before, and takes away the, attractive patina of Western stuff, immediately reverses it, right, to sort of disgust and resentment, and the sense that their own authentic product of the Soviet Union was much more, had values that they shared. And I think some of it's true. There were, a lot of writing on late socialism now kind of emphasizes not the kind of moral collapse of the state, but the kind of ways that people managed to find meaningful values in socialism and live them in their everyday lives that were kind of separate from, or just unrelated to, or otherwise maybe connected to, but kind of indirectly, the state's ideology, right? So you had all kinds of socialist values and positive feelings that you attached to late socialism that weren't connected to the oppressive late Soviet state. So that sort of field is kind of going in that direction of how people are not wrong when they feel nostalgic about this. It's not that they love unfreedom or whatever. The way people sometimes talk about Russians is they just aren't democratic as a people. It's partly that there was all this authentic meaning that was represented in the media that they're not wrong to be nostalgic for necessarily in this kind of environment now. But the distinction between Russian and non-Russian is breaking down in the media to some extent. They have every kind of show and they're rewriting it. But again, I'm not really an expert on this period, so I sort of wonder if people who are more versed, and I've got my Russian TV subscription, but I haven't been watching it enough, in other words. But yeah, I think all I can really say is what I said in answer to your questions, that it's increased the sort of national response and increased the nostalgia for this period when it was authentically Soviet in some way, or Russian. Yeah.
Is it alright to ask one more question? I'm not sure if we're kind of...
Yes, no.
Is that all right? Okay. Thanks so much for your delightful piece, and I really enjoyed the paper as well, which gave us kind of a little bit more of the history and historical portion from the 15th century. I was curious if you could remind me, the guy that you were quoting, I think, in relation to the game, about how a person can learn to participate in an increasingly competitive and stressful environment. Who is that guy that you...
His name is Vladimir Voroshilov.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to try to...
Yeah, it's just Voroshilov. It's what it sounds like. But yeah, he's an interesting guy. But yeah.
My question, it's a little bit of a two-part question to try to bring it back to the question that you posed to us, which is, I was just kind of wondering what the context of his commentary was. Who was he talking to, and what was kind of the culture? Because you were talking about the kind of celebrity status of these guys, and so the quote that you were drawing from, or the quotes plural that you were drawing from, is that him talking on TV? Is that him writing it down? And who read this? Who consumed this kind of commentary? And then to my kind of second part of that is, in understanding the context in which this guy is talking about the purpose of what he does, why is there a need to, as you say, parlay your really interesting work into something contemporary? Like, where is that coming from? The need to actually, because it's so lovely, it's so awesome just where it is. Where is your desire coming from to then bring it into the now, or to talk about what's happening, especially given the shifting landscape that you're talking about, the increased access?
That is a good question. Yes, the need to parlay it into something about current digital media. Partly just because it's interesting, but also partly because I have this panel that I must participate in, where I'm meant to be the kind of, as I said in my little note, like filling in the sandwich between cinematic avant-garde and digital media, and so I'm in the middle, and I'm curious if I can connect. I can obviously connect backwards, and the question is it interesting to those who are really talking about the current Russian internet? But it may not be necessary. I may not bother if I can't come up with anything good. But in terms of who read Voroshilov, I should have mentioned that. It was just because I was moving very quickly. So many Soviet game shows, including this one, were meant to be kind of performed as theatrical performances in kind of schools and workplaces as a form of like entertainment and kind of cultural activity in organized settings. So it's a guidebook for people putting on these shows. So part of why he's kind of offering you an insight into his thinking about direction is that he's talking to other directors of these shows and kind of exhorting them to have an ambitious view of their own potential and what this game is about. So yeah, it was a very widely kind of published in a popular series of kind of game show instruction volumes that would be bought by either individuals, and they happen now that he was actually kind of obscure at the time. To some extent, he was famous within Moscow intellectual circles, and those who kind of knew who he was, but he was technically banned from the air in terms of being visible. So part of the reason for the voiceover was he had all kinds of cool justifications for it. How, he had this omnipotent sound to him, but he also just couldn't appear. So, he was kind of not, because he'd made so many controversial shows before this that had been banned, his participation was valued by Central Television workers, but was not encouraged by their bosses. So he constantly created shows. He was never actually a full-time employee. They constantly hired back all these people that they would throw out for violating the censors in various ways, and then have them come back in as consultants and make shows. So anyway, he was kind of not totally persona grata. But he did write this book, and the book was widely distributed because of the desire for people to perform these game shows kind of as plays, basically. But yeah, that's a long question.
Are you fellow panelists going to do courtesy providing with your papers?
No, we do have two respondents who will have an overarching view of the proceedings.
Oh,
but
the overarching view.
it doesn't matter. It's just, it'll be fine. But I'm just curious
It'll be a
whether...
90-minute panel?
Yeah.
Oh, gee,
Standard
one of those.
format, yeah.
Where you have how many papers?
3.
3 papers and 2 respondents?
Maybe it's 2 hours, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Time telescope.
Well, I just thought it was worth an effort. But yeah, maybe I'll talk mostly to the past.
Yeah, there's a certain
historian.
There's a certain reality of time at conferences.
Oh, of course,
that will
yeah.
hinge upon your inclusiveness. You're including past, present, future.
No, it's true. There's just so many people here. I've been so impressed by the people working on kind of communications and film and all of that. I thought I would have a good, as I did indeed, have a good kind of theoretical audience to help me think. So that has been really useful. And maybe I will yet spin something out of it. But thank you all very much, unless someone else has more questions.
Did you have a question?
Yeah.